What is up, watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Watch Shop, and today, because we're in quarantine and can't physically be in the same room, we're going split screen with Anna.
What is up, watch fam?
Today, we're going to be talking about all of the new releases from the major watch brands in the world, like Breitling, like Bulgari, Zenith, even Audemars Piguet, that have happened in 2020. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Boom, watch fam. Before we get into the watches, let's do a quick wristwatch check. What are you wearing, Anna?
Let's do it. I'm actually wearing your Cartier Tank American, which I stole before quarantine. So
I had no idea.
There
Thank you
you
for
have
telling me. I'm just kidding. Well, if you're in quarantine, it's good to be at least in quarantine with a Cartier.
Exactly.
I am also wearing a Cartier, a very rare example. This is called the Eagle's Beak. It's a backwind watch, beautiful Breguet hands. I've only ever seen, and not even like during Theo and Harris time, just in general, of two come to auction. And then this one, the third one available on the internet ever, is in the Theo and Harris shop.
yeah, that's a beautiful watch.
I have a couple of other watches and straps here that we'll get into in a little bit, but before we do that, let's get into the news.
Let's get into it. So we've compiled a list of several of the new releases from various brands, and we're just going to go one by one, and we'll put the watches up on the screen and we'll give our thoughts. Okay. All right. So the first watch up is the Zenith Defy 21 Land Rover Edition.
I love this watch. How do you feel about it?
I actually think it's really cool. The biggest thing that I can say is that I love when a watch is complicated, but it looks minimalist a little bit. And I think that because of the color scheme and the way they've laid out the dial, I think that they've done a really good job of keeping it complicated, but making it look understated. And to me, that's pretty big.
You talk about the colors there, and this watch in its colors and in its finishing. This watch is finished in a sandblast style.
Yeah.
Has a very rugged, like sporty, tough kind of feeling, which is completely on brand with the Land Rover Defender.
Completely.
The car that this watch was, being released kind of with. It's not a secret, I hate when watch brands and other luxury brands kind of collaborate. Not because I hate collaboration, I think I love collaboration. I love the, in the words of Lapo Elkan, the cross-contamination between brands, luxury or not. I think it's terrific when you see a really great collaborations, but significantly more often than not, collaborations are not really collaborations. There's nothing collaborative about them, apart from their two brands collaborating to just steal each other's clients. There's no actual thought that goes into them. A true collaboration is something that the product actually has both of the brand's images and messages and kind of purposes in. Right? And it doesn't need to be co-branded blatantly. In fact, it's better when it's not. A really good example of what I'm talking about in the bad sense would be the Maserati Bulgari partnerships. Horribly, to me, one, not nice watches, but really more offensive, treating Maserati owners as if they're morons and just saying, hey, if we put your car logo on a watch you wouldn't have purchased otherwise, maybe you'll buy it.
Yep.
I hate that. It's reductive, but apparently it works sometimes. This watch is the opposite. Of course, moving beyond just the El Primero movement, the quality of the watch, it's the concept that I love.
Yep, I think that it is a really, really tasteful watch in and of itself, and I really like that there is not a logo on display on the dial, I think. And even the Zenith logo is really understated. I think that that's beautiful. I also will say, for aesthetically, I really like that it's basically completely monochromatic, except for that like tiny orange that's in a few places on the dial and then on the crown.
Yeah.
I just think it was done really tastefully.
The only thing I will say, negative about this watch is the fact that it is limited, like so many of the best watches out there. It's limited to 250 pieces. I don't know why. I always have a hard time with this. I think that this is such a great model that should be in production constantly. Watches like this demonstrate just how great Zenith is. Zenith is a legitimate watchmaker, especially right now. They've done so many terrific things recently with the Defy collection. I want to see watches like this in their showcase, period, end, and it's a shame that it is limited.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? I think 250 pieces. Yep.
Yep, and the price point, I believe, at 13,400 is pretty close to the next watch we're going to be talking about, right? You
Yep.
can introduce it, which comes in at $12,000.
Yep, the next watch is the Bulgari Octo Finnismo Automatic Satin Polished Steel. We've reviewed the Octo Finnismo before, and we're publicly big fans of this watch. What do you think about this new version?
So backing up a little bit, just to tell everyone kind of why we both feel the Octo Finissimo is such a terrific watch. The Octo Finissimo it's a couple of things, and I'm excited just talking about it. The Octo Finissimo is one of the most original, and it's funny because something is either original or it's not, but I suppose nothing is really original, but it's such an original design, right, beginning to end. The case shape is new, the bracelet is new, the idea of the thinness is taken, it's new, it's to a different level. Obviously it is a grandchild of the Genta designs like the Nautilus, more specifically the Royal Oak, but in this execution, everything is not only, like I said, new, but ultra thin, which gives it a different identity.
Yes.
This watch, while a grandchild of the Genta, doesn't just rely on riding in its wave. Right? It is great in its own, merit, and I can't say the same for so many of the, other grandchildren of, of the Genta movement. Whether that's Chopard's Alpine Eagle, which I don't like for a couple of reasons, or to be honest with you, even some of the direct relatives, even some of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks, even some of the Nautiluses, they're bastard children of Genta. This would be, in my opinion, a true relative of that kind of theory.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it combines the idea of luxury and steel and sort of blurring the line between sports watch and dress watch. And I think that something that makes me love this watch and understand why it's such a good combination of polishing and metal for this model is because you're seeing a lot of people, I think, wearing this watch in both ways, and now combining this polish. While sporty, it definitely adds an elegance, and they don't have to change that much about the watch, but it definitely puts it in a new category.
That's the word. It's elegance. The Octo Finissimo has an elegance to it, and it's a very obvious elegance. Put the Octo Finissimo next to a traditional sports watch, and you can tell very clearly that the designers had that in mind.
Yeah.
Now, if you actually go back to the original Royal Oaks and the original Nautiluses, they were elegant watches, while sports watches, they had elegance to them. And that elegance has been lost by those brands, more AP than Patek, but both. And that's the shame, right? The descendants of those two historic models, while, okay, on the surface level, yeah, share the shape, but they lose all of the nuance.
And the entire identity.
Those watches, they lose the identity, exactly right. That's why, in many ways, the Octo Finissimo is so terrific. Now, the other thing is price. At, like you said before, $12,000, it's ridiculous. Now, that being said, well, I'm saying the price is ridiculous because, the Royal Oaks, the Nautiluses are retailing in the high 20s, and the quality is the same. Right? And I'd love if you people disagree out there, please comment down below with why you disagree. I say they are the same quality, if not actually more, if you consider the research, development, and design that had to go into this watch. Whereas the other, Royal Oaks and Nautiluses, that's turnkey stuff, comparably speaking. Now, I don't think that this watch is a steal at $12,000 in the grand scheme. I think that Bulgari is pricing their watches appropriately, right? Whereas Patek and Audemars are pricing their watches a little bit excessively. Now, of course, there is a matter of brand equity that goes that's involved here. Apples to apples, an AP will always be more expensive than a Bulgari, and that is rightfully so. Rightfully so, because Bulgari is in a position, because they're in the build brand mode, they can't cash in on their brand heritage, right? That they need to deliver a little bit disproportionately. They're always going to have to deliver the extra 20%, over AP and over Patek, because they don't have the name. But geez, this watch, this whole collection, in my opinion, is making it glaringly obvious that Bulgari is a very serious contender.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I really respect about this, and yes, they haven't been making them for that long, but they just keep making them better, and they just keep reinforcing the point of this, which is the, or which is, as you said, is the original Genta intention, I think. And I think that we're going to keep seeing people wearing these both ways, and it's going to really, like, if you look at all of the Octo Finissimos, you have slight variations, but you just have watches that all across the board are extremely versatile and can be worn in sort of any occasion, and that it cannot definitely not be said for many Royal Oaks that we're seeing now, and Nautilus is just
I agree. And then the other watch that I want to talk about before we go on to the before the next watch that's totally different, but separately, Bulgari also released their Octo Finnismo in rose, again sandblasted, stunning. I prefer the Octo Finnismo in the sandblasted finish than I do in the satin. Bulgari released a steel Octo Finnisimo as opposed to titanium, sandblasted not so long ago. They followed it up with this satin version. I prefer sandblasted. I think it's so much more interesting and different. But I understand their desire to produce it in satin. It's just a more popular kind of finishing.
Yes.
But this rose gold model is, I mean, without using profanity, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Great. Next watch, if we want to dive down from the $12,000 price point into like the $100 price point, what do we got?
Yep, we have got the Timex M79 Automatic. This is the Batman-esque bezel on the Timex. So what are your initial thoughts on this?
This is the second generation of this kind of, Timex release. They didn't use the Q model here like they did last time, but it's basically in the same collection. This is a mechanical version as opposed to the quartz version. I love the quartz Pepsi a couple of months ago, maybe it was a year by now. Who remembers? Time flies.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're in quarantine. But listen, Timex doesn't have to be anything more than fun, right? That's the point. It's talking about $100, $100, maybe $200. That's a fun category. I love the $200 category in watches because you don't have to beg more of it. It can be a Batman, rip-off in a way.
Exactly.
Where I would criticize that at $1,000. I criticize that at $2,000. So at $200, it scratches an itch for a colorway that you like. I happen to really enjoy the super 70s aesthetic of these models. Is it a little polarizing? Yes, but I like it. So I like this watch.
Yep, I agree. I think that the fun thing about these, and especially if they're, being made with mechanical movements, is that this is a watch that anyone who's into watches would no doubt pick up, like without question. It's like, it's $200.
Yeah, but you're missing one key, variable here. It's that everyone in watches can't pick one up because the demand is higher than the supply.
Right.
At this point, we're used to Rolex being tough to get. We're used to Patek being tough to get and things like that. But now we're having to see the same struggle all the way down to Timex.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
The original Theo and Harris, slogan was, vintage mechanical watches from Timex to Rolex. That was our first slogan. I remember that. And, right? It's funny. And the funny part was you're talking about, opposite brands, polar opposite things that you can derive, enjoyment from, right?
Yeah.
But now they have a hell of a lot in common, that you can get them, and they're trading at enormous premiums, which to me is it's a little bothersome. What happened to the good old days?
Yes.
You could take your, maybe I didn't even live these good old days, but you could take your son down to the store and buy him the Timex that he wanted. You can't even get him the cool one anymore.
Exactly, and this is a kind of one of the watches which we see a lot more so from Swatch, that it's using mechanical movements. It's an interesting design. It's sort of vintage inspired. This could get a kid into watches. So.
Oh my God!
Why are they creating they're not even the ones making the premium. Do you know what I mean? Like, why cause that at all?
Well, what was the watch that got me into watches?
Your Swatch.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was the Greek Olympic Swatch.
Yeah.
2004. My mom and dad gave me this thing. And I was 9 years old, and I remember feeling like a big boy. I'm a big boy now, and I have an analog watch, and it tells time, and I know how to read it. And it's also like a weirdly beautiful watch. Like that was kind of like lucky.
Yeah.
My parents had good taste, but that was just a nice watch. Like
Yeah.
the design is beautiful.
That's totally true.
But the point remains, it's this entry level price point that I feel like we should all, preserve a little bit. I'd hate to. I'm not going to be a part of ruining that category. And a lot of people are, and salute to them if they're making some money, that's fine. But I think that
it's kind of a
I can have a
shame.
sacred cow here and there. You know what I mean? There are certain things you don't want to ruin.
Yes.
And maybe we have bigger fish to fry. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the one thing I'll say about that. I think it's a really, I agree with you. Love that it's, kind of retro. Love the design, really cool idea. Just wish that it was accessible to people who I think would get the most enjoyment and long-term interest from.
Yep. Speaking of accessibility, one of the most accessible things that you can buy in the watch industry, I'm smiling already because this is a plug, is a watch strap. A watch strap can entirely change not just the aesthetic, but the feeling of a watch. It could change the personality of a watch. That's why when we launched the Theo and Harris Strap Shop, we were so excited because that was about the same time that I was realizing myself how much new life I could breathe into at the time, all I had was Datejust, my personal Datejust.
Oh, yeah,
and I was swapping straps constantly. You remember that. I remember.
Oh, yeah, we had so much
I used to
fun
buy
with that.
straps left and right, like off of eBay when I could, and they were horrible, but I was doing my best with the money that I had, Anyway, the strap shop at theoandharris.com is really one of the aspects of the business that I take the most pride in. And that's not even because of any work that I've done. That's really more because of the manufacturer themselves. John Rousseau makes these incredible handmade straps that are not just beautiful when you buy them, and a lot of straps are beautiful when you buy them, but stunning a year and 2 and 3 years later. And that's rare to find. If you look at my Datejust with the Type 1, that watch has been on that strap for like 3 years now. And Anna, you have the Sark, don't you?
Yep, I have the Sark on my pull router, and I've had it on there for like a good 2 years probably. And it just gets
better with age.
Exactly. Yeah, it literally just gets better with age.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Yeah. Yeah, but something that we talk a lot about the color and the stitching and the manufacturer, but something that really that I love to talk about is how well they wear into your wrist. Like I have worn it in all seasons. I have worn it, in the summer when you get hot. They stay so beautiful and they stay really strong, and they wear incredibly, and they age, and when they show the age, it's really interesting and cool. So I'll say that about these.
And again, that's not a remark on how well I make watch straps. This is me complimenting someone that I do business with. This is me complimenting a third party, complimenting them so much that we made this partnership. Anyway, in light of the corona and all this absolutely crazy bizarro world we have out there, we thought it would be a little bit cheeky and fun and ultimately to your benefit to, for the first time ever, issue a discount. I don't do discounts because our straps are already very fairly priced, and frankly they deliver more value than they cost if you put them next to their competitors. In this whole environment of COVID-19, we're all locked in our house, I figured why not, let's give $19 discounts if you use the code Wash Yo Hands, which is applicable to everything in these straps and more shops. So straps, wallets, rolls, and even sterling silver goods that we have. Anyway, it's just a fun thing to do while we're all cooped up in our homes. So if you're in the market for a new strap, head on over to the Theo and Harris Strap Shop, code Wash Yo Hands, and we'll ship it out immediately. All right, next watch, Anna, what you got?
Okay, the next watch is the Breitling AVI Ref 765 1953 re-edition. This is almost an exact remake of the watch that they're making a re-edition of. I think first sight, obviously it looks classic vintage. It looks very classic Breitling. I like it. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a great watch. Breitling did a great job bringing a vintage model into modernity without, perverting it, like I feel that our next topic, Audemars Piguet, did. Breitling did a good job. And if you really look in, context over the last 10 years, this is a very special, moment because Breitling really was going on this bizarre, very blingy route under prior leadership, and now they've really corrected course. Breitling has become again, or they're working to become again, they've expressed, the intent on re-becoming a manufacturer of luxury, tool watches. And tool watches aren't pieces of jewelry. It's a big difference. Tool watches can be beautiful, they can be intricate, they can be well designed, but Breitling of old, of mid-2000s, whatever, that was just bling, right? And I hated it because I have a soft spot for Breitling. I love Breitling, even though I'm not a sports watch guy.
Yep, and I'll just say I think that there's a lot about this watch, you know, the thinness of the bezel, the Arabic numerals, the faux patina. There's a lot about this that if someone is just getting into watches and doesn't realize that vintage watches look very different and have more of this kind of style, right, you can get so overwhelmed by the Royal Oaks and the crazy Omegas and Hublot and there's just so much distraction out there. And I think that this watch is, because it's a new watch in a brand that's really big. You look at that and you go, oh wait, I really like that. That looks different. That's my style. And you don't even realize that it has tons of heritage behind it, and there are so many watches like that available. But I think that this is going to really allow people who are just getting into it to explore their own taste and get in touch with these kinds of watches more. And I just love that it's being produced now. I love it.
I agree. I think the one I guess criticism or it's not criticism, it's more of a warning, is going to be, Breitling. You don't want to just be a sports watch manufacturer. You don't want to be a tool watch manufacturer. You want to be a luxury sports and tool watch manufacturer. And when you put that word luxury in, the bar is raised. And not just the bar of your prices, but the bar of what you need to deliver. And I like this watch. I really like this watch. I would recommend it to anyone. But you as a brand become held to a higher standard where originality becomes very important. Yes, it's fun to release a reissue now and then. It appeases clients. It's a beautiful thing. I'd love to own one. But if you want to maintain this idea that you're still a relevant company that can stand on its own merit, you need to create new things, right? Because eventually you run out of history to repeat. Eventually. So I have nothing wrong with this. Breitling's on an amazing track. I commend them. I absolutely look forward to working with Breitling at some point. I can't wait to do that. And there's nothing wrong with this, just to be clear. But I really await their new releases. I really can't wait to see what they have up their sleeve in development. And to be clear, development takes time. Development takes years. It could take 5-6 years to develop a new, incredible thing. So they're not behind the ball. Breitling's doing a great job, but that's my one note.
And I will say on that, if this is an indication of where they're headed, if these are the features and the priorities they're going to keep in mind as they're designing, can't wait.
Agreed. And great, let's go to our last watch of the day. Anna?
Let's do it. Let's go into, you knew it was coming, the Audemars Piguet Remaster 01 self-winding chronograph. And let me just say this, on the AP page, if you go to this watch, it says this is not a reissue, this is a remaster. So they're making sure to clarify that this is not an exact reissue.
Which I kind of like. I kind of like the idea. You're laughing, and I agree with you. I know why you're laughing, and I definitely would be laughing as well. But I like the idea of that, right? Remaster. There is meaning in words, and I do feel that is probably the right direction for AP to take. Heritage is a rich word. Remastering is a rich word, and of course, remastering implies that there's going to be something new and improved. So, what is new and improved over this watch from its 1940s inspiration?
Right. Well, the movement of this watch is new. It's actually an iteration of the movement that was in the code 1159. So that is a remastering of the horse that's powering this watch. Another change they made is in the thickness, which is almost shocking to me. This is a 14.6 millimeter thick watch, and when you're looking at something that's incredibly vintage, from the lugs to the colors to the softness of the dial to the thinness of the hands and the numerals, pairing it with something that's nearly 15 millimeters thick is a bit oxymoronic, I think. What do you think about that?
I agree. Proportions are key, and to me, it's a shame that AP blew this up to 40 millimeters and 50 millimeters thick. This watch should have been 38 millimeters, and really, it could have been manually wound to really make that thinness around the 10 millimeter, range. It's a shame to me. Even the colors are a little bit off. I like the direction AP is headed with this watch, but I don't love this watch. I don't know anyone that would buy it. I'm sure they're all sold out already. AP has a big clientele, but I look forward to seeing what AP will continue to be releasing in the future. That's the most exciting part about this watch for me. Anna, we do have to sign off, but guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. Check out the Theo and Harris Watch Shop for a vintage Rolex Omega, Patek Philippe, or so many others, Audemars Piguet. And of course, take advantage of our very limited, because once we're all out of quarantine, the sale is gone and I'm never reintroducing it, $19 off with the code Wash Your Hands from the Leather Shop. Thank you guys so much again. Anna?
Don't forget that we are here for you guys during quarantine. We have made a playlist called Quarantine H with all of the best, most binge-worthy content we've made. So it'll be linked up right there and down below. Don't forget to check that out if you're looking for more stuff to watch. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, for joining us in this conversation. We're going to have another iteration of this conversation with new watches and more watches as they come. And thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys. See you soon.